still doing 100 Friday. Okay. We've had a kind of a rough week with a lot of things going on, and obviously the power going out here being one of the main ones. But we got the podcast up, and I think Evan and I both are committed to this podcast enough to have made that happen, even though we could have just said, "Well, the power went out. There's nothing we can do." Sorry, advertisers, but we don't do that. We come back and we do everything we can to make sure it happens. So I hope you guys enjoyed I know it was disjointed. I know it was late getting up, but I hope you enjoyed the podcast on Friday. Today's podcast, of course, as all of them are, presented by Titan MRI, our good friend Joe Calorio over there. We're going to actually have a good, I hope, really good Wednesday meeting about the 27th Bob Dooley Invitational, which will be April 30th. It's almost like don't even bother to get your entry fee in because it probably is already sold out. I just haven't counted all the checks yet. But anyway, we just announced it. Of course, we are coming to you from the Shakow and Mercandani studios, and they have done such a great job of sponsoring this show, and we love our boys at Shakow and ladies at Shakow and Mercandani studios. Appreciate them so much and everything they do for us and all the sponsors. We talked about this last week a little bit, and I got a little sappy. But, look, you guys are making us go here. There's a reason why we're still doing this show, and we're going to have our 100th episode on Friday with Drew Copeland as our guest. He and I will do our annual picks that we do every year in the bowl games, and that'll be a lot of fun. So are you going back and adding them up now? No, okay. You're looking at something else. All right, so let's talk about the press conference Sunday. It was pretty good. I mean, there's a lot of cliches. I'm just going to move this a little bit. Okay, there we go. So that's good. Still good. Okay. There's a lot of cliches I don't like in the newspaper business or radio business or TV business. One of them is he won the press conference. Who cares if somebody, A, who cares if they win the press conference, and B, how do you grade that? How do you judge that? They don't keep score at a press conference. Oh, good. Oh, that wasn't good. So I don't worry about whether he won the press conference, and I don't think he comes across in kind of podium situations maybe as strongly as a lot of people do. I don't care. You want a guy who's just got a plan, and we're going to do this, and here's what we're going to do, and he wants to get to work. You should have seen the speed with which Coach Napier walked out of that room when we had a little time with him off to the side, but the speed with which he ran out of that room, and it's just because I got to get to the next thing. He had a great quote, which is a cliche, but this is a good cliche. There is such a thing as good cliches. This is one, I'm drinking water through a fire hose. And what that means basically is you're trying to just get a drink of water, and it's just flying by you. He's got a lot to deal with. He's got to move a family with 3 young kids here. He's got to, and his mom. I would think his mom is also going to move here because many of you know or saw in the press conference, his dad passed away in 2019 from ALS. And I had a question ready for that, and I was going to talk to him about that. But Zach got me. He got the question in, so I had to ask a bad question. Didn't go over well. Anyway, that's not the point. But he was very sincere talking about his dad. As somebody who just lost his dad, I really felt it, I like the guy so far, but it's I met him one time. I didn't even ask him a direct question other than the one on the thing. So I don't know whether this guy's going to be the answer for Florida football. I have no idea. What I know is that Florida has finally said, hey, we're going to spend like everybody else. We're going to do whatever it takes for this guy to be successful. And then if that doesn't work, you've got to really totally reevaluate, and you'll probably be doing it with a different athletic director. As you know, my relationship with Scott Strickland is very strong, as it was with Jeremy Foley. But the bottom line is Scott has kind of put all of his eggs in this basket, this Napier basket, and he's given him pretty much everything he wants. He's already building him and almost built this football-only facility and giving him this a lot of money for the the assistant coaches, allowing them to hire what Napier talked to us about this afterwards, after the press conference. We're going to hire an army of people that are going to come in here. Now, what are those people doing? Okay, why do you need an army to run a football team? You got all these football players, you got trainers. Why do you need an army? You need an army to recruit. You just do. It's the world we live in. And he saw this at Alabama, certainly at Clemson, where they really got this early. And that's one reason they're ahead of the curve. I know Clemson didn't have a great year this year, but would you trade the last 10 years of Clemson football for the last 10 years of Florida football? Of course you would. But those schools, and then Kirby took that to Georgia, and this is what Billy Napier's bringing here. Now, does it work? We'll see. Doesn't necessarily work everywhere, I mean, it works, but it works most places. If the more money you spend, the more success you have. And really, that's what it comes down to. Everybody has to understand this. It all comes down to how successful you are in football. Everything else is great, and it's important, and I love all the sports in this town, and I love going to all these games and everything. But if football's not successful, you're making less money, and you can spend less money on those things. You've got to have that football revenue. You've got to have, and again, the SEC is part of the problem, and yet part of the solution. They'll throw all this money at you, and you go, well, then we'll give assistant coaches $7.5 million. They did announce 2 assistant coaches today. I think both of these guys were on the plane, so it wasn't a big shock. Patrick Toney, who will be the co-defensive coordinator, and Mark Hoke, I don't know how to pronounce his name. These are people that are all new to me, and apologize for that. But he is a new strength coach, which tells you that Nick Savage will not be back, and I'm not surprised. This guy had been with Billy Napier for a long time. Billy wants to build this physical team that nobody wants to play. And I don't think that Nick Savage was that kind of a and look, he was very good at his job. And he's really good at building these elite athletes that can run and hit and do all these things. But physically, Florida has lacked. Let's face it. They've not been quite there. And I think that's the difference in what he wants. Now, again, there's no – look, Urban Meyer built a team with a bunch of 170-pound running backs going, where do you go? How do you cover all these guys that could really run? I mean, that's the bottom line. There are different ways to build a football team. This is the way that Billy Napier's chosen, and so that's the news out of that. Look, this guy's clearly got a plan, and it's a plan that resonated with Scott Strickland. There's no doubt about it. We talked to Scott Strickland afterwards, and he was talking about how when he was interviewing him, they were kind of near the end, and he had a conference championship game coming up, and obviously Thanksgiving was coming up for everybody, and Scott said, "Hey, look, we're going to need to talk some more, but when it's done, I want you to be the next head coach of Florida." And Billy Napier stood up and said, "All right, let's go." And so we'll see if this is the plan. If this plan works, it's a good plan. It's a plan that Nick Saban has instilled in him, and it's a plan that can work. It's going to be really interesting to see. But I will say this, guys. Again, I could talk for literally the entire hour show about what's going on at Florida right now. I will say this. It was pretty clear from listening to Napier last night that he would hope to have an Urban Meyer first year. The Urban Meyer first year, he had to still continue to build the culture. And if you remember going all the way back to the not next to last, but almost next to last game against South Carolina where they lost, and he kicked 2 players off the team on the plane when they landed on the tarmac. He took a long time to build that. When I say a long time, he took a year. But it was more than that. It was not letting guys work out in Florida gear and all that stuff. A lot of it was cliche stuff that you maybe don't get away with now. But it's pretty clear that in Billy Napier's case, he is going to take his time doing this. This is not a situation where he feels the buyout is huge. And Scott Strickland's not firing another coach unless he does something really terrible, because that would be a bad legacy to fire 3 football coaches. And they are in love. I mean, it's amazing how much they do love each other. All right, we'll continue to go over this. We're going to be joined by Mark Schlabach from ESPN. I can't wait to talk to him, and we'll talk to him about the Florida situation and also all the other situations going on out there, including the craziness at Miami, where Miami basically said, all right, we're offering the job to a guy. We have a guy employed, and he's out recruiting for us, but we're offering you the job. And then he took it, and they fired the other guy. Hey, you're gone. I didn't think it was a good idea to hire Manny Diaz, but I don't think it was a good idea to fire him. However, I will say this, to get Cristobal is an upgrade, but it's not this massive upgrade. He was a failure at FIU in South Florida. He's got to, I don't know. We'll talk to Mark. Mark will tell me better about what's going to go on there. We know Florida's bowl game now. Florida is playing UCF. This is a line I'm going to use many times between now and then. This is not the team Florida wants to play, UCF. You want you to be at a high level when you play an in-state rival that has been begging to play you. But on the other hand, this is not the UCF team that wants to be playing Florida, because Florida's still got a better team. UCF's had their struggles, of course, their quarterback Dylan Gabriel being out and in the transfer portal. So we'll see what happens there. We'll talk more about that as we go forward. In fact, we have in the Hesser and Kipke spreads, we have the first odds on that game. Brett Venables named the Oklahoma coach. It hasn't been a big surprise. I'm kind of curious that they took so long. And we'll I tell you what, we'll talk Georgia Alabama with Mark, and of course the Baylor game. We'll talk about all those things going forward, because we got to get to a break. And if we don't get to a break, we can't get to him. We can't get to all the great stuff we have to talk about, even including basketball. So we'll take a break here. You're listening to Another Dooley Noted Podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Shaq Allen Mercandane Studios.
Car accidents, trucking accidents, motorcycle accidents, and wrongful death. If injured or killed by the negligence of others, who will fight for the compensation you deserve? Shaq Allen Mercadante, 5 lawyers, more than 100 years of combined legal experience, millions in settlements and verdicts. Call Shaq Allen Mercadante, 371-3000. Rebuilding lives.
Titan MRI, North Central Florida's premier independent diagnostic testing MRI facility. At Titan MRI, we're focused on you, the patient, having a great customer experience. Our MRI equipment is modern and 75% quieter than any unit in its class. And our MRI unit has one of the largest openings of any of the newer high-strength MRI units, which allows comfortable scanning for potential claustrophobic and larger patients. At Titan MRI, we look forward to serving you.
Another Duly Noted Podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Celebration Point. You can watch and listen to us on Facebook and YouTube for every podcast that we do on Mondays and Fridays at 2 o'clock. Listen to the podcast whenever on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, any of the other 39 platforms where you can find this podcast or your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments section below or call me if you want to do some advertising at 352-317-3444. Hey, this is Pat Dooley for the Gainesville Quarterback Club, and they are having a trial membership here at the end of the season. It's really a great deal. We've talked about them doing it at the beginning of the season, and what they're doing is they're offering the next 3 meetings for $100. And believe me, you get a full meal out of this, too, for every one of these meetings. Great speakers. The meeting dates for this are November 9th, 16th, and 23rd as we wrap up this college football season. Anyone interested in taking advantage of this trial membership can RSVP the membership leader at bob.bagley@pauldavis.com. Or you can just pay at the door.
Great food, great atmosphere, a diverse menu, everything made from scratch, plenty of space, and locally owned. These are all the characteristics of a great restaurant, and you can find each and every one of them right here in Gainesville at Ballyhoo Grill. Ballyhoo Grill prepares all of their food fresh every day, from their salad dressing to their award-winning soups. Bring your family and enjoy dinner under the Tim Trebo Tiki Hut while listening to live music. Or if you're running low on time to eat out, they also deliver through Uber Eats, Bite Squad, and Postmates. A Gainesville staple that's been open for over 30 years. Check out Ballyhoo Grill on Facebook or at ballyhoogrill.com.
Hello there, everybody. I'm Pat Dooley, of course, from Another Dooley Noted Podcast. And this is a great Adam Brewer, and he's just opened up a place here, Adam Brewer To Go. What would give you the idea to do this, to have a to-go place like this?
We really like the fast concept, being able to get the barbecue. Now we have this new online ordering. So before it was a call ahead carry out, quick service. We have like a curbside kind of a deal where everything's ready to go for you. And then we thought, wow, we have a really great dine-in concept, but how can we make this streamlined for the customer and make it easy and accessible for all parts of town?
Adam's Rib Co. To Go. Come on down and enjoy it. Okay, welcome back to Another Dooley Noted Podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Shaq Allen Mercandani Studios. And we're trying to get Schlabach on here. We'll get him on in just a second. We kind of got in and we couldn't see him and everything. We got to be able to see his beautiful face. We got a lot of things to cover, obviously, as we go forward. Whether Georgia should be concerned. I mean, they lost a game. They got behind. They couldn't come back. So there's a level of concern there. And how it all worked out in terms of the college football playoff, certainly it was predictable, I think. But you kind of didn't know whether that Cincinnati thing would work out. And it's historic. And congratulations to Cincinnati. Look, everybody said, hey, look, if you schedule tough and you win all your games, you can get in. That's the only way. You can't do it the way that Alabama wants to do it. You can't do it the way Georgia wants to do it. You can't do it the way Ohio State wants to do it. You can't do it that way. So you have to do this, and they did it. And congratulations to them. It'll be interesting. All right, so do we have Schlabach on here? Yeah, we just got audio of Mark. There he is. I see his name up there. Mark, how you doing? There he is. Look at that. Oh, that's a nice little beard you got going there.
I had to go to the iPhone. My 12-year-old's at school, so he couldn't tell me how to fix the camera.
Is that your COVID beard? Is that what you're calling it, or?
Yeah, I've had it for a while. I think I've had it for 3 or 4 years now.
Well, you and I never see each other anymore because I don't go to games, obviously, and you're such a big celebrity up, and they make you go to Bristol all the time, don't they?
I rarely go to games. I went to the SEC championship game on Saturday, and that's the first time I'd seen our buddy Chris Lowe in probably 2 years, and we worked together. It's crazy.
I know. I miss seeing Chris, and I miss SEC media days, and especially this one coming up with Billy Napier and Brian Kelly. I mean, who thought we'd be seeing that for SEC media days?
I think one fits and maybe the other one doesn't. I'll let you decide.
Well, we'll see as that goes on. Let me ask you about that SEC game because it was obviously a big surprise to everybody, including me. I mean, but I think all of us said, I'm never going to bet against. I would never bet dollars against Nick Saban because he'll come up with a plan. But what do you think the plan was, and why do you think Georgia busted so many coverages in the secondary?
That I don't know. I mean, that's something that really hadn't happened all year. They kind of masked their secondaries, their safeties rather, had kind of did things to not expose them as much in the regular season because neither one of those guys is very fast. And I think we saw that on Jamison Williams' first long touchdown run.
Sure.
Chris Smith had an angle at him and just ran right by him. But, I don't know what happened. I mean, obviously I think Kirby Smart knew that it probably wasn't going to be as easy as it had been if you were going to end a 41-year drought. Anytime you give Nick Saban the opportunity to tell his team they're an underdog, and if they want to go to the college football playoff, they have to win, I think he's going to figure out a way to motivate them. I think we probably put way too much stock in what happened against Auburn and didn't realize the Iron Bowl. And when it's at Jordan Hare Stadium, it's usually weird things happen. But Alabama's offensive line dominated Georgia. Georgia's secondary, as you said, busted some coverages. I don't know why Georgia didn't try to bring more pressure. They got to Bryce Young a few times, but couldn't get him to the ground. So, I mean, all in all, Alabama absolutely manhandled them, and Georgia's got a bunch of things to correct before the Orange Bowl.
Well, and there's going to be the optimist at Georgia, which I know in the SEC there aren't many people who are optimistic after a loss of any kind because the SEC doesn't work that way. But the optimist would say, hey, look, it was a good wake-up call. It was a good chance. And I think Kirby said that. It was a good wake-up call. I don't know that it is. I don't know that it – but, again, not everybody's going to be able to attack them the way that Alabama did with – the guy who's going to win the Heisman now and the receivers that he had, even though he lost Mechie during the game and won't have during the playoffs.
Yeah, no, Nick Saban mentioned me after the game. This is probably a good thing for Georgia. I don't know if I believe that. It's so hard. It was so hard to really, to say how good they were during the regular season. They were killing people. I mean, to win every SEC game by an average of about 31 points is incredible, but who was any good? They hadn't played anybody as explosive as Alabama. They certainly hadn't played a quarterback as good as Bryce Young or receivers as good as Williams or Mechie. So I think it is. Kirby said he hopes it re-energizes them, refocuses them. Obviously, if you're going to lose to Alabama, you want to lose to them in Atlanta and not in Indianapolis potentially. So I think it got their attention, and we'll see how they bounce back.
Were you expecting maybe a surprise on Sunday, even though we pretty much knew the top four, but you never know what the committee's going to do after that TCU thing at the very first one?
Yeah, I mean, it was probably as drama-free as any of them have been. I did not think, even though Gary Barta, the Iowa AD, who's the chairman of the committee, would never admit it, they weren't going to put Georgia against Alabama in the semifinal. I mean, a lot of people probably don't want to see Georgia-Alabama in a championship game if they live outside the South. But I think they got it right. I think Alabama should have been number 1. I think Michigan should have been number 2. Georgia 3 and Cincinnati 4, and I think Notre Dame might have been the only other team with an argument, but they didn't beat Cincinnati, so you couldn't put Notre Dame ahead of Cincinnati. I think it was pretty stress-free for the committee.
Yeah, this was a year that Scott Strickland should have been on it, but he was on it in 2019, and one of his jobs was to scout the Sun Belt teams, and that's when he kind of became a fan of Billy Napier, and of course yesterday introduced as a Florida coach. And I just wanted to get your thoughts. I don't know how much of the press conference you saw, but what your thoughts are on Billy Napier early.
No, I mean, I think it's a really good hire. I mean, obviously he was, raised under Dabo Swinney and Nick Saban. It doesn't get any better than that. He is a relentless recruiter, which might be the opposite of Dan Mullen, depending on who you talk to. I don't think he's afraid of Nick Saban. I don't think he's afraid of Kirby Smart. And I think he'll get out on the road and work his tail off. I think he needs to hire a younger staff. I think that was one of Dan's downfalls with that he had some older guys on the staff who didn't like to recruit guys who'd been to the NFL and didn't really want to put forth the effort. But, Billy's got a good track record, did a hell of a job at Louisiana, 3 straight 10-win seasons. It's a step up from the Sun Belt to the SEC, but, everybody's got to start somewhere.
It is kind of an amazing, not only the fall of Dan Mullen, which was crazy, but also just this cycle that we've gone through that is not over now because Oregon's got an opening right now. Is that your dog making noise? This is very dog-friendly show, but trust me on this. We love our dogs.
Hey, Riggs.
That's a good-looking dog right there, man.
Yeah, that's Wrigley. Got her right after the Cubs won the World Series. She hadn't run on a football field yet. She was trying to get in, so I had to let her in. Sorry. It's been the craziest coaching carousel I can remember. I ran into an agent at the Marriott Marquis in Atlanta a few hours before the game, and he said, ADs don't even do searches anymore. They just go hire a guy. They're under so much pressure to hire somebody that they don't even go through the traditional process anymore. And I think we've seen that at LSU and Florida and some other places. But, it was only just over a year ago we were hearing how every athletic department in the country was going to lose hundreds of millions of dollars during COVID because of lost television and ticket sales. And here we are paying $100 and $110 million for football coaches and tens of millions of more dollars to make guys go away. So it's been nuts.
And I wonder where college football is going. I mean, it's to me, it is an idiot-proof sport. And that no matter how much they screw it up, like this whole deal, Mark, with the college football playoff, and they can't get into a room and hammer this out in 1 hour. Just 1 hour is all it should take for normal people to hammer something like this out. But now we still don't know until January. I do think it's idiot-proof, but I think there are people that are going, what the hell is going on with college football?
Man, no. I mean, you look at the amount of money spent on dead money for coaches and the facilities. I mean, you would thought it would have slowed down after COVID, but everybody's still in a huge spending spree. There's still not enough money to pay the players, which is always fun. I don't think, and NIL. Everybody was making a big deal about NIL, and I thought it was going to be very few guys that actually got big endorsement deals. And I wonder, some of these guys, you take like JT Daniels, the Georgia quarterback, for example. There's a national chicken fingers restaurant that paid him a lot of money and an NIL deal, and the kid hadn't started in 2 months. And DJ Ukulele at Clemson, got the doctor deal. All those people that paid Spencer Rattler money before the season. I mean, I wonder if people are going to wait until mid-season in the future to sign guys up, because some of these deals have backfired. But that's what happens when you're dealing with 19, 20-year-old kids. But the playoff, the grown-ups got to sit down at a table and get over their hurt feelings. Everybody seemed to think Greg Sankey was trying to pull one over on them by expanding the playoff quickly and giving it to ESPN or whoever. And while he's backdooring Oklahoma and Texas, there's not a college commissioner in the country who wouldn't have taken Oklahoma and Texas, and if they wouldn't have, they weren't doing their job.
You think it'll eventually end up with 12?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be 8. I mean, it only takes one vote to derail it. I do not think Greg Sankey will go for 8. I think it needs to be 12. Going back to the coaching changes, I'm glad Lincoln Riley went to USC as a college football fan, because we need college football to be relevant on the West Coast, and it's not.
Sure.
Other than Oregon, and Oregon just lost Mario Cristobal to Miami, or Cristobal to Miami. So, it's we need more teams in. I mean, I'm glad there's some new blood in the playoff this year with Cincinnati and Georgia and Michigan. Georgia's been there once, but it can't be the same teams over and over again, because I think it was pretty stale.
Let me ask you this question, because I brought it up in the past here. All right, so this year we had more parity than we've had. It's been a crazy, chaotic year. Part of the reason is because they let guys play a fifth year that weren't eligible for it. Why not just make that the rule all the time? You can play 5 years and let that may result in more parity in college football.
Yeah, no, I mean, I wouldn't be against it. I think it takes a guy 4 or 5 years to really develop unless he's a superstar.
All right.
I do.
I mean, those guys are going to leave anyway. Yeah, after 3 years. Yeah.
It allows teams like Iowa and Oklahoma State and others who, have programs that actually develop players and develop chemistry. And, I think it does even the playing field for them. Going forward, we'll have to see. I know that there are some high school kids out there this year that are kind of falling through the cracks because there just aren't enough available scholarships. And with the portal, I think it's going to get worse because I think you're going to see the big boys save a few spots that, they won't give to high school kids to take transfers to fill their needs. So we'll have to see how the recruiting cycle shakes out over the next couple of years as well.
I think I saw a stat where 35% of FBS players who got in the transfer portal never found a home. And I mean, that's sad when you think about it. I mean, you had a scholarship, you had a chance to get a degree, you had an opportunity to play, whether the stage was small or big or ginormous. You got a chance to play, and you just kind of pooped it away because you thought the grass was greener.
No, I'd say it is sad. It's 35% of the players who won't finish their degrees, more than likely.
Yeah,
which is supposed to be what this is all about. So no, I had one SEC head coach tell me that they had a demerit system. If you got so many demerits for missing practice or missing study hall or not turning an assignment or making a bad grade or doing whatever, you got so many you had to run. And then if you got more, you had to run and do other stuff. And he said as soon as he told a kid he was on his third round of punishment for demerits, he walked to the compliance guy and said, "Put me in the portal." And they said the guy was a pretty good player. So I think it's just giving kids an out too. But, you hope that kids more and more kids aren't being pushed into the portal by coaches because it does seem like most of them aren't finding landing spots.
All right, I got 2 last questions for you, and then we'll let you go. And I appreciate you always being on. Mark Schlabach from ESPN, author, columnist, golfer, Renaissance man is the way I like to think of him. Number 1, who's going to win it all now? Now that we know who's in it.
I'm going to stick to my guns because back on September 1st when I did my preseason predictions, I said Georgia would go undefeated, lose to Alabama in the SEC championship game, and then come back and beat them in Indianapolis.
How'd you know all that? How'd you know that?
I get like 1 out of 20 right every year. The year after, the greatest one I ever did was the year after Tua came off the bench and beat Georgia in the national championship game. I said that they would meet again in the SEC championship game in 2018, and Jalen Hurts would come off the bench to replace Tua and lead them to a championship. And I actually nailed that one. And some guy sent it to me and said, "How'd you get that one right?" And I said, "Probably vodka."
It was, look, you're the only one that saw it coming. There's no doubt about that. Secondly, I want you to tell the story because I was telling it to my producer here, Evan, about the time your dog got on the field at Sanford Stadium because not everybody knows that story.
No, that story, the crazy thing about that story, Pat, next year's the 25th anniversary, and nobody talked about it for like 22 years. And then all of a sudden, every time Georgia plays Kentucky now, the dog's on TV or something. But
that's not the same dog, right? I mean, 25 years later.
My wife would have left me a long time ago if that dog had 25 years. He was a graduation present from the last girl I dated before my wife, and it's probably the reason my wife didn't like him too much. But name was Tubby the Chocolate Lab, and I was living probably about 12, 14 blocks from Sanford Stadium in Athens with a couple other guys, and Tubby was an escape artist. No matter what we did, he would get out the backyard. At one point, we had to Velcro the refrigerator shut because he would open it and drag food into the backyard. which really,
I love that dog already.
yeah. But it was 1997. Georgia was playing Kentucky. Tim Couch was Kentucky's quarterback. Al Mummy was the head coach. Sonny Dykes and Chris Hatcher were on that staff. Georgia, I think, was like 6-1 or 7-1, and Donovan's second year. They had Mike Bobo and Heinz Ward and Stinchcombs and Robert Edwards.
Beat Florida that year, yeah.
Beat Florida. Yep, 47-17 or something, 37-17. Yeah. Anyway, it's a rainy day, and I'm sitting next to Tony Barnhart in the press box. Pretty boring game in the rain. And I'm typing away, and all of a sudden the crowd goes crazy, and I look down and my dog standing on the 50-yard line. And as soon as I saw him, I turned white as a ghost. And this Blot Bryce, I don't know if you remember him. Yeah. I worked with him in that Athens office of the Atlanta Journal, and Blot just started shaking his head and laughing because he knew who it was too. But it probably took him 4, 5, 6, 7 minutes to get him off the field. And finally, my roommate said there was a girl with a hot dog on the sidelines that drew him to the sidelines, but they couldn't catch him. And, I mean, he took off down the sideline, and Larry Munson was on the radio going, the dog's at the 30, he's at the 40, he's at crosses midfield. He stepped out of bounds at the 20. But animal control officer came out of the stands and took him away in the paddy wagon, got him out of jail on Monday. He was neutered on Tuesday. And then I had to go to court, and I think I had 3 or 4 citations, but I had a buddy who's an attorney that I played poker with who represented him pro dog bono and got all the charges dismissed. But I'll never forget the judge, who was a really nice lady, said, I hate to ask, were there any witnesses? And I said, Your Honor, there were 86,117.
That is great stuff. Appreciate your time. By the way, I know you. It affected you Saturday to see the way they honored Cecil Hurt at the game Saturday in the press box. That meant a lot to me, and I miss Cecil every day. And I saw somebody tweet, I wanted to read what Cecil wrote about that game. You know, and I think we all were there in that same boat where we just wanted to read Cecil's column the next day.
Well, that's exactly what I was thinking as I sat there and watched the Iron Bowl. You know, that was really the first big game that he wasn't there. But I didn't know Cecil like some of you guys did. But he was he's probably the most intelligent sports writer I've ever loved. That was every time
which isn't saying much, I will say that.
But he was the only guy that walked around with a Russian novel in his hand.
Yeah.
So, he was, yeah.
I had ball 4 in my hand one time, I think, when you saw me, but that was about it.
I had just, walking around with happy or Duck Dynasty Commander.
Or Good Night Moon, back in the old days, we used to have that. Hey, Mark, always great talking to you, man. Good to see you again. And hopefully we'll see each other in person soon at some point. And thanks so much for joining us here on Another Dooley Noted Podcast. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Pat. Good to see you.
All right, buddy. Mark Schlabach, ESPN, one of my old friends and great friends. And it is a bit of a downer that we never get to see each other. All these guys, Chris Lowe, you mentioned earlier, and I've thought about it, going to SEC Media Days this year because it's going to be so interesting. I don't know what I'd write, if I'd even write about it for anybody. I mean, I've got all these different things I'm doing. Gator's Wire, In fact, I did a big thing on the 10 most important things Billy Napier said on Gator's Wire. You can see that there. So anyway, we got a lot to get to. We got all of our great stuff. The Hand Law 3 Things, the Adams Ripco to Go Gator of the Weekend, Alex Wesley Construction. These are going to be our final, what we would have done as a committee. This will be our 12. And then next week, we are going to continue this going. We want to keep it going with with Alex Wesley Construction 12-pack. Next week, we're going to rank the bowl games, the top 12 bowl games. We've got the Monday spreads from Hesser and Kipke and the Leonardo's at Millhopper quick picks, which I know a lot of you qualified again this week. All that coming up and more. Thanks again to Mark Schlabach. You are watching or listening to Another Dooley Noted Podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Shaq Allen Mercandani Studios.
Titan MRI, North Central Florida's premier independent diagnostic testing MRI facility. At Titan MRI, we're focused on you, the patient, having a great customer experience. Our MRI equipment is modern and 75% quieter than any unit in its class. And our MRI unit has one of the largest openings of any of the newer high-strength MRI units, which allows comfortable scanning for potential claustrophobic and larger patients. At Titan MRI, we look forward to serving you.
Car accidents, trucking accidents, motorcycle accidents, and wrongful death. If injured or killed by the negligence of others, who will fight for the compensation you deserve? Shaq Allen Mercadante, 5 lawyers, more than 100 years of combined legal experience, millions in settlements and verdicts. Call Shaq Allen Mercadante, 371-3000. Rebuilding lives.
Another Duly Noted Podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Celebration Point. You can watch and listen to us on Facebook and YouTube for every podcast that we do on Mondays and Fridays at 2 o'clock. Listen to the podcast whenever on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, any of the other 39 platforms where you can find this podcast or your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments section below or call me if you want to do some advertising at 352-317-3444. Hello there, everybody. I'm Pat Dooley, of course, from Another Dooley Noted Podcast. And this is a great Adam Brewer, and he's just opened up a place here, Adam Brewer To Go. What gave you the idea to do this, to have a to-go place like this?
We really like the fast concept, being able to get the barbecue. Now we have this new online ordering. So before it was a call ahead carry out, quick service. We have like a curbside kind of a deal where everything's ready to go for you. And then we thought, wow, we have a really great dine-in concept, but how can we make this streamlined for the customer and make it easy and accessible for all parts of town?
Adam's Rib Co. To Go. Come on down and enjoy it.
Great food, great atmosphere, a diverse menu, everything made from scratch, plenty of space, and locally owned. These are all the characteristics of a great restaurant, and you can find each and every one of them right here in Gainesville at Ballyhoo Grill. Ballyhoo Grill prepares all of their food fresh every day, from their salad dressing to their award-winning soups. Bring your family and enjoy dinner under the Tim Trebo Tiki Hut while listening to live music. Or if you're running low on time to eat out, they also deliver through Uber Eats, Fight Squad, and Postmates. A Gainesville staple that's been open for over 30 years. Check out Ballyhoo Grill on Facebook or at ballyhoogrill.com.
Hey, this is Pat Dooley for the Gainesville Quarterback Club, and they are having a trial membership here at the end of the season. It's really a great deal. We've talked about them doing it at the beginning of the season, and what they're doing is they're offering the next 3 meetings for $100. And believe me, you get a full meal out of this, too, for every one of these meetings. It's great speakers. The meeting dates for this are November 9th, 16th, and 23rd as we wrap up this college football season. Anyone interested in taking advantage of this trial membership can RSVP the membership leader at bob.bagley@pauldavis.com, or you can just pay at the door.
You mentioned before the game you weren't sure how players would respond to being underdogs in this game. Just how do you think they responded, and how much was that used as motivation?
I think what these guys really wanted to sort of gain was more respect. Not just the fact that they were underdogs, because I think we had a tremendous amount of respect for Georgia, their team, and what they accomplished. But you guys gave us a lot of really positive rat poison. The rat poison that you usually give us is usually fatal. But the rat poison that you put out there this week was yummy.
All
right, we'll go over here on the right, in front row, middle.
Oh, that was the quote of the weekend, and it's why I love Nick Saban. The older Nick Saban, the older he's gotten, the more interesting, the funnier he's been, the more he's enjoyed victories. And maybe, hopefully, something has, by osmosis, or has passed on to Billy Napier. I will say this. There are a lot of Alabama fans that will tell you if Nick Saban retires in 4 years, say, that Napier's the guy they've got kind of fast-tracked to that job. So, I mean, look, you don't leave Florida for another job unless your name's Urban Meyer. But I didn't say that out loud. I think there was only been one coach in the history of the University of Florida to leave for another college job, and I think it was Bev Kearney, who was a track coach, and she went to Texas. I think that's the only one, and then Lon Kruger did too. He went to Illinois. That was it. So, but anyway, don't worry about that right now. Let's let this guy coach a game. All right, we got a lot of stuff to get to, so let's do it. Let's start out with the Alex Wesley Construction 12-pack. Alex Wesley Construction, love where you live. We love Alex Wesley Construction, a big part of this show. And like I said, next week we are going to rank the bowl games, and there going to be some good. This could be interesting to see some of them. Some of them are really fascinating. All right, yeah, look, Alabama has to be one. I thought it would be interesting to see if Alabama was 1, Michigan was 2, or the other way around. You could make an argument for Michigan, but look, it's the SEC, and that's all you have to say. So the SEC team is going to be ranked higher, even though the Big Ten had a huge year. Alabama had the best win. They beat Georgia. I would put Cincinnati 3 ahead of Georgia because Georgia really they didn't have a lot of great wins this year, and I think they deserve to be in. And Tim Brando's a good friend of mine. He's been on this show. But him going on and on about them not see, now I would have matched them up, Alabama and Georgia, because I would have been I always talk about this integrity in seeding, and I think for example in college baseball there's no integrity in the seeding. College basketball, the integrity in the seeding is not great. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. It means you're trying to match teams up. But I would have gone ahead and said, hey, look, this is the order I'd put them in. Cincinnati won all their games. Georgia didn't. Georgia didn't really win that big a game. Their biggest win is over Clemson, which isn't in there. All right, number 5 is Notre Dame. Sorry, Notre Dame, but I'm a big Marcus Freeman fan already. Looking forward to seeing how they do in their bowl game. Baylor, and we'll talk about the bowl games next week. Baylor at 6. I think Baylor was way too low in that poll. Not that it matters if you're 6 or 8 or 10. Does it really matter? Ole Miss and then Ohio State. What a great year Ole Miss had. And again, Lane Kiffin signing a new contract. Utah at 9. Utah. You talk about Billy Napier talked about team. We want to be the team nobody wants to play. The team nobody wants to play is Utah. Nobody wants to play that team, especially there. And guess who gets to play them to start the season? The mighty Gators at home. It'll be interesting to see what the crowd's like for that game. I would think it'd be, standing on their heads. Michigan State 10, Louisiana. Billy Napier's Sun Belt champs, number 11. And number 12, this college football season. What a year we've had so far. And look, we're not even close to being done. We've got bowl games and playoff games and all kinds of stuff to go on. The coaching searches aren't even over. Manny Diaz, fired at Ole Miss, and now Cristobal goes there, and so now Oregon's got an opening. So it's just crazy, and it's been great in a lot of ways. And look, I've said this before, but I do think college football is kind of idiot proof, but they're really trying to screw it up sometimes with some of the game times, with the 4-hour games because of reviews and commercials, with the way they cannot decide on a 12-team or an 8-team playoff or a 4, whatever. They look dumb, and they're smart people. I know Greg Sankey very well. He is as smart a guy as I know. And I know what he wants, but here's the thing, and this is where I just don't know what to do with college football, because I'm afraid they're gonna make it not idiot proof. But college football, you're sitting in a situation where it seems like so simple, but everybody's only looking out for themselves. Every school's looking out for themselves. Every conference is looking out for itself. So that's what we end up with. At any rate, that's the Alex Wesley Construction 12-pack. Alex Wesley Construction, love where you live. And next week we'll be ranking the bowl games, and we won't rank the playoff games. So we'll only do the 12 games that in the order I think that they should go in. And, of course, next week we'll also have Drew Copeland on for our 100th episode, and we'll do the bowl picks that we always do. I owe him another lunch. I got to buy him another lunch. All right, it is time for the hand law of three things. Of course, you all know hand law. By now, you should know everything about them. They present three things. Hand law is a Florida law firm, which helps clients with government. You can learn more about hand law by visiting its website at www.hand.law. The firm is available for consultation in Jacksonville. Number one on hand law. Hey, Florida's playing basketball tonight. It's so funny how, like, football was going bad and the basketball started doing good, and everybody was like, we'll go that way. No, football's fired their coach, they're hiring a new coach. And basketball lost the game. Look, it was one game. They still got a lot to play. The team they're playing tonight's 0-7. They're not very good. They were an NCAA tournament team last year, won a game in the tournament, but they're not very good this year. But Florida now is number 20 according to the AP poll. Don't forget these guys. I mean, they need your support, and I'm sure there'll be no crowd there tonight. It's another 6 o'clock game, I believe, because we're actually doing radio, but we're off early because of it. I don't get that mentality, but again, this is where TV kind of takes over. Number two on hand law, three things. The SEC had 13 teams qualify for a bowl. There was a lot of talk. One of them wouldn't get in. It would have been Missouri. There were some issues with their schedule, but they did get into a bowl game. I don't even know which one. Sure, I won't watch it. But, and again, I'm not going to say this but once. Don't complain about too many bowls. You don't have to watch any of them. That's how many. Here's how many bowl games you have to watch. 0.0. But kind of cool that Mississippi State and Texas Tech got matched up. Mike Lee still says they owe him $9 million, Texas Tech. And now he's getting to play him. So maybe he should put a bet on. Say, if I win, you pay me the $9 million. If I lose, we're free. We're good. I don't think they'll do that. And then finally on hand law, number three, the Lions won a game. And the only reason I bring this up because the Lions finally won their first game this year. I don't care. Didn't care about the game itself. It was a bizarre game and a bizarre finish. There were a lot of great finishes in the NFL yesterday. But I didn't realize the Lions were 0-10-1. Man, there were so many things I could have said about the 0-10-1, famous 0-10-1 season. In fact, when you think about it, that 0-10-1 team is one of the more famous in Florida history. They get quoted people quote that team all the time. Well, I was there for 0-10-1. Well, we went 0-10-1 one year. That team gets quoted more than any 6-6, 7-5, 8-4 teams. Well, what about 0-10-1? Anyway, the Lions were 0-10-1. Now they're 1-10-1. So that is the hand law of three things, presented, of course, by the great people at Hand Law. All right, let's go to the Leonardo's and Millhopper quick picks. It's a hard one for you. It's not hard. Well, it is hard. I will say it is hard. We got some more qualifiers from last week. We got a nice list. We'll probably draw something next Friday, I think. That's what I'm looking at as a nice Christmas present for somebody. All right, Leonardo's and Millhopper quick picks. We appreciate Kyle over at Leonardo's. In fact, going to meet him Wednesday, talk about the golf tournament. By the way, the date's April. I keep saying August. April 30th. We moved it up again to try to get out of the rain, try to get in better weather. But if you want to get in, just give me a call. Maybe we can fit you in. So here's a quick pick. Florida is playing Louisville in volleyball. Louisville's number 1 in the country. They are 30-0. So I'm not going to say who's going to win. I'm going to say how many sets does Florida win? 1, 0, 1, 2, or 3. There are 4 answers here. 0, 1, 2, or 3. Now, I looked it up because I was curious about this because you know me. I like to pay attention to things. Louisville and their 30, was it a game winning streak or match winning streak? 30, anyway, they've won 30 in a row. They've lost 11 sets total in those entire, so out of 30, that means they won 90 sets and lost 11. So, look, if you guess 0, nobody's going to be offended. If you guess 1, certainly that's an optimist, a little bit of an optimist. If you guess 2, man, you got to like what Mary Wise is doing. If you guess 3, you're probably going to lose. I mean, look, if Cesar was still with the team, it would be different. She's gone. I think that they did a hell of a job getting to the, Sweet 16, considering what happened there. So, all right. So we have that. Leonardo's and Millhopper quick picks. Florida at Louisville. How many sets did the Gators win? Out of, like I said, 0, 1, 2, or 3. All right. Let us go to the Monday spreads. We always love the Monday. Oh, you know what we need to do first? We need to do, we'll get to the Monday spreads, the Adams Ribco to go Gator of the weekend. I piled everything up here at the end. You know who the Gator of the weekend is? Billy Napier. You know why? Yes. Look, Billy Napier won a conference championship. As he said, getting on that plane as a conference championship was a lot better than just getting on that plane. And so he wins a conference championship Saturday. We watched the game. Made it, I thought, not a great call there at the end of the game, choosing not to punt. But won that and then got introduced as Florida's head coach with all this fanfare and everything. It's been a pretty good weekend for him. Now, I know he feels overwhelmed right now, but it's been a pretty good weekend for him. So he is our Adams Ribco to go Gator of the weekend, Billy Napier. So, Coach Napier, if you want, we'll print something out for you and hand deliver it to you. All right, finally, we go to the Hesser and Kipke Monday spreads. The Monday spreads are brought to you by Hesser and Kipke, a law firm based in Hale Plantation, specializing in employment, workers' comp, and family law. Visit their website at www.hklawfl.com or call Ken and Jennifer at 352-339-9920. So give them a call if you need any help. Give all of our sponsors a call. Here are some of the spreads. Army-Navy's the only game this week. 7.5-point favorite for Army. I've not paid a lot of attention to Navy or Army this year. And I'll watch this game. I'll watch it a lot for the fanfare of it and everything. But let me give you some future spreads because obviously there's only one game this week. Georgia right now, 7-point favorite over Michigan. Michigan can beat them. I don't think they will beat them. Alabama, a 13.5-point favorite over Cincinnati. And that's where you kind of go, it may even get worse than that. And maybe that's 14 playoff doesn't work. Some other spreads. The Gators are 7.5-point favorites over UCF. Woohoo! Now, when the Gators are favorites, they usually lose, but, we'll see what happens there. And again, I don't know who's going to be playing that game. A couple other interesting ones. There are only 2 teams in the SEC that are underdogs of the 13. One of them's LSU. They're 7.5-point underdogs against Kansas State. I think they can handle Kansas State. And Wake Forest is a 5-point favorite in the Gator Bowl over A&M. Kansas State LSU is in the Texas Bowl. Also, Miami, by the way, is a 1.5-point underdog. Underdog against Washington State. It's kind of weird. In the Sun Bowl. Be careful of the Sun Bowl. There have been a lot of teams that took that ride over to Tijuana and never came back. I can just tell you that. I remember that 1977 team. There was a lot of tequila hangovers on that club. All right, so that's going to do it. Appreciate so much Mark Schlabach for joining us. A great job, as always, by Evan. and for getting us the show Saturday that we were able to get you. And we'll be back on Friday with a great show. Drew Copeland will join us. We'll make our picks for the bowl games that we always do. There's money on the line here, $100 donation to Stop Children's Cancer and everything like that. So we got a lot of things to get to. A lot of things. Who knows what can happen between now and then? I mean, God, the world's crazy. It's just nuts right now. It's a vampire. All right, that's it for our show on Another Dooley Noted Podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Shack Al Mercadante Studios. And I'll get a haircut before next Friday, too. That's just ridiculous. It's too long. Until next time, I'm Pat Dooley. I'm saying I am deep, I'm way back, and I am out of here.